That's right. Pleased to welcome in Chris Peters for another edition of The Next Wave delivered by DoorDash. Chris has done a fantastic job covering the Olympics, not just at dailyfaceoff.com, but also on his blog at Hockey Sense. Chris, this is one of those games that does not disappoint. Canada and the US meeting for the gold medal in the Olympics for the sixth time in 7 winter games since the sport was added. And it's like war, as you wrote in your preview on dailyfaceoff.com. What are the U.S. women going up against tonight in Canada?
Well, they're going up against a steamroller, quite frankly, and probably the best team that I've seen since I've been covering, international hockey. Just in terms of the dynamic element that Canada has, and you look at just down their scoring depth, and they have 4 lines that can score. They have defensemen that jump into the play. They're faster and they're stronger. The U.S. has lost quite a few players from that 2018 team, and you think about some of the heart and soul players like Megan Duggan and the Lamoureux twins and Casey Bellamy. They're no longer there. So the team's kind of turned over partially to the younger players, but there's still Hillary Knight, Kendall Coyne Schofield, and some of the other veteran players. And they're certainly going to miss Brianna Decker, who is out injured. But this Canadian team has been incredibly impressive overall. We saw just the number of players that you see here on the screen with the scoring attack. And Sarah Nurse, 12 assists, that's tied for a record. Brianne Jenner, 9 goals, tied for a record in a single tournament. So, these are players that are playing at the very top of their game. They've waited 4 years for this opportunity. I think that shootout loss to the U.S. left such a bad taste in their mouth. And just because Canada was on a roll at the Olympics, a lot of these women, it was their first Olympic Games. It was their first opportunity to win an Olympic gold medal. And that's what the 4-year span kind of allows, is that hunger to build up. And so I think this Canadian team, quite frankly, is a decisive favorite in this game. But just because they're the favorite doesn't mean that the U.S. doesn't have something that they can pull out of their back pocket at any time, because as we've seen, this rivalry can really come down to the very last minute.
Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise anyone if it did again this year. Looking at how, maybe some keys to the game from the USA perspective, this Canadian offense is so dangerous. For the US, is it going to be trying to slow them down, trying to keep up, or just trying to hope Alex Cavallini pulls one out and steals the game for them?
Yeah, it might end up being a combination of all three, really. I think that, there is a speed advantage for Canada. So the U.S. is going to have to find a way to slow that down. Certainly, they got to clog up the neutral zone. They can't allow transition to beat them, which has been, that can be a problem against a team like Canada. You go back to the first preliminary round game, and Canada was badly outshot in that game. Now, they were playing on the second half of a back-to-back, but they also finished their chances where the U.S. didn't. And the other thing that you have to do against Canada is protect the net front. And Alex Cavallini more than likely getting the start tonight. That's instead Maddie Rooney got the start of the preliminary round game. Cavallini's been waiting a long time for this. She was on the team in 2018, didn't get into any action. So, kind of stuck it out and is being rewarded with the opportunity. And she and Anne-Renee Desbiens, the goaltender for Canada, were actually teammates at the University of Wisconsin. So, this is a pretty unique kind of environment where you've got two goalies that were at one point on the same college team. And that's another reason to go support women's college hockey, because a lot of these players are playing there. But I think it's all going to come down to that net front play. The U.S. has not generated enough rebound opportunities, and against a goaltender against like Desbiens, who doesn't give up a lot of rebounds to begin with, you got to take advantage of those chances when they come. So I think this game is going to kind of be one between the face-off dots and below the face-off dots. But certainly that speed factor that Canada, that can be a difference maker.
Chris, when you look at the mental approach to this game for Team USA, it's not just going up against a fantastic Canadian team, but also really how the way the preliminary round game played out. You mentioned the shots, 53-27. The U.S. really overwhelmed Canada, threw their best punch, and yet when push came to shove, Canada had a response. How do you think Team USA manages that approach now heading into the gold medal game as decided underdogs?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to almost take the same approach and say, all right, well, we didn't finish, but we know that we can really control the puck. And if you can control the puck against this Canadian team, which is not easy to do, you're going to have an opportunity to win the game. And certainly both teams are playing on the same amount of rest. There's really no decisive advantage here one way or the other. Canada gets the last change, so some line matching and potential there. But I think for the American perspective, and just in terms of the mental attitude, is that for so many years USA at various levels, at the women's under 18s, at the women's world championship, they had kind of built up momentum and it started winning these games more consistently. And so you have to have that mentality where you can't get sucked into the mystique of Canada, which is, this is a team that they're big, they're bad, they're fast. If you allow that to play into your attitude, that's going to really, mess with you. So I think it's going to come down to the veteran players for Team USA. It's about Hillary Knight, who's been their leading scorer this year, Kendall Coyne-Schofield, the captain, Alex Cavallini in net, and then on the blue line, Lee Steckline, who played over 27 minutes in the 2 elimination games, where the U.S. actually was tested a bit by Czechia and by Finland. So those veteran players, it's all up to them to really calm things down, allow the young players, empower the young players to play their style, like Abby Murphy, who's so physical, Abby Rock, who can get the puck down low and win a lot of battles and has been excellent at the faceoff dot. Make sure that they're given the confidence that they can compete at this level and that they can find a way. But I think that this one, it's going to be tight, but I also think that the U.S. has to have almost a perfect game to beat this Canadian team, because what we've seen all the way up to this point is Canada has been absolutely rolling over their opponents. It's like they used these last 4 years and let everything simmer beneath the surface and allowed it to explode in Beijing. And that's kind of where we're at right now. So I can't wait for the final. It's always great. The last 2 went to overtime or a shootout. So we know this one is going to be an absolute battle.
Can't wait. Puck Drop is at 11 p.m. Eastern time. You can find it on NBC or CBC if you're in Canada. And you can read Chris's recap early Thursday morning on dailyfaceoff.com with all of his thoughts on the big gold medal game. If you're like me and don't want to cook, or if you want to relax before the big game tonight, DoorDash has your favorites delivered right to your door. You see the promo codes at the bottom of your screen, DFODD if you're in Canada, or DFODDUS. That gets you 25% off and free delivery on your first order. Thanks to Chris. This has been another edition of The Next Wave, delivered by DoorDash.